Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this whole video, well, if it ain't just V-Day, and you're all my Valentines, hope that doesn't make you uncomfortable, because it sure does me. But you know what they say is in the air, around this time of year. Farts, but also danger, because this story is ultimately about love. In 2016, Don Fluitt was a retired fireman living in Albuquerque when he turned afoul of someone. But whom? Or is it who? I don't know, let's give it a go. Don Fluitt was born in 1962 in Los Angeles. He had one younger brother, Dennis Fluitt, born less than a year after he was. They were raised in California before, in their early 20s, they moved to New Mexico. They had always, rocked on, partied hard, but they wanted to, start afresh. They were like two peas in a pod. Close, so why not do it together? And it worked. By the time Don was 26 years old, he was married with two healthy, growing babas. And a, unhealthy divorce. It wouldn't last, and Don's, ex-wife would take the kids with her to Oklahoma, but, that didn't stop Don from trying to be there as much as he could for his kids. And as his kids grew, so did Don's interests. It was when he got into his late 30s that Don, he was sick of you holding him back. He was gonna follow his dreams. And he did. Guess what it was? I'll give you a hint. He had a mustache. A firefighter. What else? Well, I guess a cop, pilot. They're the only other professions I can think where it's mandatory to have a stash. And not long after, he met a woman named Christine, who was his brother's neighbor in Albuquerque. Don would remarry, and together himself and Christine would have a daughter together, Sienna, who became the light of their lives. And this is when the story goes to shite. I mean, it will go to shite even more later, but we'll get there. After being a firefighter for 8 whole years, Don lost his job. Christine then, was the sole provider, and finances, as they usually do, start to stretch the fabric of the marriage. Not in a good way. It stretched until it snapped, and Christine did the old file for divorce classic. Don and Christine would share custody of their daughter. Now Don, ex-firefighter at this stage, but he didn't become a firefighter for adrenaline or whatever. He genuinely loved helping people. After he stopped helping people, escape flames, he started helping the disabled get work. And in his spare time, he would start up what he called Spaghetti Sunday, when every Sunday he'd cook a shitload of spaghetti and have a big old feed for the homeless. This ended up becoming a pretty big thing, something he'd share with his daughter. And Don was always someone who wanted to give back. It was not long after Christmas 2016 when Sienna, who was very close with her dad, called him every day. Well, on the 29th of December, she couldn't get through to him. She called Don's co-workers, and they couldn't get through to him either. So 2 of them decided to pop by Don's home. They rocked over to the gaff. The front door was not locked, and after taking a few steps inside and calling out his name to no response, then, they realized, well, let's just go check the garage. From the outside, the garage door was closed, so we'll walk in. If his car is there, or if his car is gone, well, then he's gone. And that's where they found him.
I have an emergency with my coworker's house, and we found him here in his garage. He's on the ground in front of his vehicle. Something is very wrong. Do you know if he's conscious and breathing? Oh my gosh, he's dead.
Don had been beaten with a blunt object, stabbed, and his throat cut. There was no sign of forced entry to the home. His phone remained, as did the kibosh in his wallet, which was on the countertop. They did all the forensic whatchamacallits and went ahead and snooped around. One thing that was pretty odd was that, there was clearly violence in the garage. And there was smears here and there, but there wasn't, enough blood for what had been inflicted upon Don. And that was when an empty bleach bottle and towels stinking of bleach were discovered. Someone had cleaned up. So, from there the police went door to door in the neighbourhood. And guess what? The next door neighbour had cameras. At about 7:30 the previous night, Don had left in his truck. This was him dropping off his daughter at his ex-wife Christine's. This was confirmed when the police spoke with her. She said about 15 minutes after that video, he arrived. And she said he told her something strange. He said he thought that someone was in his house, or had been in his house. See, Don and Sienna had just spent Christmas at Don's family house in California, so the house had been empty for a couple of days.
That he said it's weird, there's like cat hair in my dryer, and someone used a pan in my house.
Someone was making themselves a home, frying up their rashers, and even brought the fucking cat. As to who would want Don dead? Well, add a question mark to that sentence, because no one, I exclaimed. He was a lovely man, decent, helped out in the community. Someone who wouldn't, make problems with other people. Now this is when there's some spooky shit. Remember when Don said he, thought somebody had been in his house? Well, he was right. There's CCTV of Don leaving to drop his daughter off the night he was killed. Then, minutes later, a figure is in his driveway, laying the bin on the ground. Then walking toward Don's house. That figure is never seen leaving. Then Don comes back, he sees the bin and corrects it, and then walks back into his home, where we can assume the killer was waiting for him, or in his front garden. The garage door then shuts. Then, for some reason, it opens back up again, and we see flashes coming from the garage. The flashes are most likely from the killer tripping the sensor. Maybe he had been waiting outside and followed Don into the garage, stopping the door as it was closing. One of the first people the police went to speak with was a fella named Walter White.
Goddamn right.
Terry White, Christine's new husband. Man, he took living in Albuquerque a little too seriously. He was a truck driver and had been working the night before, and he was asked how he'd get on with the victim, especially as Terry, Christine, and Don had gone to court over custody. But, by and large, they stayed out of each other's way, or tried to.
Kind of the reason I wanted to talk to you in private is we want to talk to, like I said, the people surrounding John, and unfortunately it puts you kind of in a weird position to not beat around the bush. You're the other guy.
Yes, I am the other guy.
We want to talk to you about that.
In the beginning, I would say it was Rocky, and if he can get me in any kind of way, violent or yell and scream at him, then it would make him look good, and he would ultimately, win the court side about, he'd get the daughter more. So I wouldn't fight for that.
You ever been to his house?
I've been to his house once.
You've never been inside?
No, I've never seen inside the house.
And we're not going to find any DNA or fingerprints of yours anywhere in his house or on his vehicle or anywhere in that area?
No.
Okay. So if we did, it'd be weird.
Yeah, I would say that would be, weird. I just would not get in the guy's life. It's just, to me, it wasn't worth it. Because I love that little girl. Yeah. And I don't want to, make her, and they hate me because she loves her dad.
Terry's alibi was confirmed. He had visited his sister before work, which she confirmed, as did his boss, that Terry had rocked up on time. See, Terry White, as usual, the grumpy ex comes up far too often in these kind of situations as the most likely suspect, but he was cleared. So next up was Don's brother, Dennis. See, although they were close as shit growing up, in recent times they had developed a rift. They had fought after their father died. What he left behind wasn't divided up correctly. Don kept a truck they had agreed to sell, with Dennis leaving Albuquerque for a time for Arizona, before coming back not long before his brother was murdered.
I got a little bit angry with him about that because he took a lot of my dad's stuff. There was just disagreements, just like I'm starting to see with my brother's death.
Do you have your eye on anybody in particular?
Oh, I can't tell you that. Oh, man. No, I can't tell you that.
Oh, that's right. I'm still not cleared as a suspect.
Nobody is. In my opinion, nobody is.
Police also learned the reason Don lost his job as a firefighter. Smoking the devil's lettuce, so he was.
That's true?
Marijuana.
Marijuana, okay.
nothing heavy. I guarantee my brother hasn't touched heavy drugs in 30 years.
And Dennis had another name for the police. A guy named Benny, who was Don's landlord.
It makes me mad. I mean, I'm no investigator. I'm no cop. But this guy spends 2 hours in my brother's house.
You're talking about the landlord, Benny?
I mean, how do we know that Benny didn't go over there and Don might have just let him in and everybody knew each other, and then it went bad.
See, Dennis said that after the murder, he went to Don's house and found Benny inside, snooping around. Don had also said there had been a leak in his house, which Benny was taking his sweet-ass time fixing. Benny wasn't going to fix the pipe, so Don maybe tried to fix Denny, and that didn't end well. So they went to speak with him, who pointed a finger right back at Dennis. He said that Dennis had tried to rent another space from him, to sort out Don's affairs. That was another thing. People were kind of suspicious that Dennis, who, had been fighting with Don, well, after Don died, he was taken over. However, Benny refused to allow Dennis to rent from him when he learned that Dennis had a criminal record for assault. The whole thing, seemed strange. As I said, Dennis and Don were not close before Don died. So, the suspects were Benny the landlord, Terry White, or Heisenberger, and Dennis Fluitt. And then they started thinking about Terry White again. See, he said, and his boss had said, that Terry came to work, he got a few hours kip, and then he trucked off. The CCTV did indeed show him arrive to work, and then leave. His story began to change. He said, oh no, I actually slept somewhere else. You just can't see it on camera. Of course you can't.
Again, thank you for coming down. No worries, I'm sure you're busy.
And first he had said he stopped off at Wendy's and got a bite to eat.
Went to eat. So I went to have myself a hamburger and headed into work.
But now,
I stopped at Walmart. I want to stop and get a new sweatshirt for me for work because my wife bought me one for Christmas. I said I'm not going to wear that to work, so I went and bought this one.
So the detectives took DNA from all three suspects, and the investigation continued, but was just going nowhere fast.
Fluitt is doing what a little brother shouldn't have to. He's cleaning his brother's garage, packing up the last of his belongings. It is here in this garage his brother Don Fluitt was found dead.
It was a simple life, and it was tragically taken from him.
The case from December still unsolved. Don Fluitt was a retired Bernalillo County firefighter, a father of 3, including an 11-year-old little girl.
He didn't have enemies. He was a man of God. He didn't run the streets or do illegal things. He was just a good guy.
That is one of many homicides in Albuquerque still unsolved, where police need your help.
Closure would be nice, an arrest would be nice. He didn't deserve this. He was a great guy.
They're more than cases, it's personal.
It was 3 months after the murder of Don that the lab results returned, right? And get this, e pluribus unum, which is a weird way to use that phrase. But under Don's fingernails, well, the DNA showed that it was Terry White's. An arrest warrant was issued for Terry. But where was Terry?
Well, police say this is 50-year-old Terry Lee White. They say he's the one who killed Fluitt in his Albuquerque home.
And I think that he was the person responsible right after it happened, yeah.
Dennis Fluitt has never met Terry Lee White, but says his brother Don sometimes spoke about him. He says White is married to Don's ex-wife, and the two men did not get along.
There was a history there, and it wasn't a healthy one.
Police still won't say why or how Don was killed, but Dennis.
Brutally.
So again, take a good look here at White. Police say he is armed and dangerous and want you to call 911 immediately if you see him.
Christine claimed she had no clue, but thinking she was full of shite, they searched her stuff and found, of all things, Terry's will in the glove compartment of her car. Not quite life insurance, but just having it, might come in handy. And if Terry was nowhere to be found, It was less than a week later and 200 miles away that Terry was found. But get this! Alive, but barely. He was found inside his car at a rest stop in the middle of nowhere with a goddamn pipe coming from his car exhaust into the car. That old job. Yeah. A passing deputy found him and saved his life, and then promptly arrested him when he learned there was a warrant out for his arrest.
Do you want to talk to me today? Me and the attorney? Okay. When you guys, obviously you're thinking something, so I gotta protect myself.
So Terry wasn't talking. Well, wasn't talking to the cops anyway. Because Dennis Fluitt got a message on Facebook from a stranger. She said that Terry was yapping away in jail with her boyfriend and knew all about the murder.
From what I understand, you want to talk about kind of what Terry's confiding you.
Yes.
Terry snuck into Don's house when the garage door was closing. They had gotten into an argument, a fight in the kitchen. I'd eventually moved into the garage, and well, there you have it.
He tripped the garage door and I thought it was busted right then. But he ended up getting underneath the guy's truck. I got up and I was waiting right there by the door. He's a truck driver, so he has tire thumping on his back. He checked the tire. He said as soon as he came out, he said I hit him as hard as I could with that tire thumper. He said I hit him so hard it split the tire thumper in 3 pieces. So I'll give him this. He fought for his life. He said I went inside the house and I got a steak knife. And he said something about slitting the side of his throat. I had plan B. He said there was an axe there on the wall of the garage. So that was plan B.
So this guy, Rod, told the police, things only the killer would know, details that were never publicly released. So it seemed like they had Terry by the plums. And it turned out that Terry not only told him how, but why. Custody.
Terry told you on several occasions
that he did it for her, that she's the one that told him, we've got to do this now. You got to do this for your family.
So Terry told you that Christine told him to do it for the family.
Yes. They've been looking for an opportunity for a while.
So Terry knew he was going down for this, and he had a will and life insurance, so he was going to make sure his wife and stepdaughter were taken care of, so he was to remove himself. But the pipe in the car job, that was actually his third attempt to remove himself. Funnily enough, he got done on the first try, but this all wasn't, exactly Terry's idea. See, the entire time he had gotten 2 big thumbs up from Christine.
Why are you still here? Why did not kill yourself?
Christine was then arrested, as, allegedly, it was all her plan, and she too was charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy. However, those charges against her were later dropped, as the only case they had against Christine was on the word of a criminal, so...
Good afternoon. The murder trial for the man accused of killing his wife's ex-husband began today in Albuquerque.
Somebody has entered the garage at the time that the door was closing. This is when the defendant entered Don's home.
It's a grainy video. It's tough to figure out. It's tough to see what's going on there.
It was an emotional first day in the trial of Terry White.
So at some point in that evening, he's confronted by the defendant who was in his home, who's been sitting there waiting for him.
When I knocked on the door gave a little bit, which I thought was odd. So I turned the doorknob and it was unlocked.
And discovered the 54-year-old former firefighter stabbed to death.
And what did you notice when you entered the garage? It's okay, you can take him.
I found my friend.
Investigators have pointed to a brewing custody battle between Don and his ex-wife Christine White over their daughter. She was also charged with murder, investigators believing she put her husband Terry up to the murder, but her charges were dropped.
In June 2018, Terry White went on trial. He denied being the killer. The jury didn't agree, and Terry White was found guilty.
We find the defendant, Terry White, guilty of first-degree murder by a deliberate killing as charged in count 1.
He was sentenced to life in prison.
Okay, when Terry White addressed the court today, he refused to admit that committed a crime, and he refused to apologize to the victim's family, maintaining his innocence.
I have always said I was innocent, and will continue to say so. No, I will not be apologizing to the Fluitt family for a murder I did not commit.
Christine is still out and about. The allegations against her are, well, just allegations. Nothing's been proven. But, Don's family say she was the mastermind behind getting Terry to kill Don and then getting Terry to kill himself. Now, the police say it's still, an open investigation into Christine, so who knows what's going to happen there. Nothing's been proven. And Christine, she completely denies she had any foreknowledge of what was going to happen to her ex-husband, Don. But poor Don, who seemed like such a good guy, who's just trying to give back to the community. That's the most tragic thing at all. And then his kids and his daughter, who he was so close with, that's the tragedy left behind. But that's the end of the story. For now. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will see you as always. You know the drill. Real soon in the next one. Come on. Till then, take care of yourselves. Mike out.